Where in Gork's name is my super glue gun? Them pesky little grots have had it again, haven't they?
Greetings, boys and gits. Greetings, grots and snots. And welcome to Dread Waaagh Gaming. In today's episode, I'm going to be starting a brand new series, something rather exciting, something that a few of you have heard about already, and that is a series on Grot tanks. So we're going to be taking a look at building them, scratch building, converting. We're going to be painting them. We're going to be talking about their lore, looking at their stats, even doing a little bit of tactics on Grot tanks as well. So we're going to really have a good in-depth look at them. So before we get started, let's take a look at the NOOWZ.
Greetings, you scurvy dogs, and welcome to the news. The freebooters are in the news quite a bit this week. That's why I'm dressed as a pirate. Our fair shipmate, Ben Jurek, came first place with his freebooters in the Scorched Earth Open in Arizona. Don't know where that is, on the far shore somewhere, I'm sure. Our Ben, he played with a freebooter list of 2,000 points against 38 other buccaneers, and he beat them all black and blue, he did. So, his 2,000 point list is right here. Let's have a look at it now, shall we? And if you want to find out more about the victory that Ben here had, check out the scroll at the bottom there, and it'll tell you all the details. There'll be more news about the old freebooters as well, because Kill Team Elites is coming soon. And Kill Team Elites has been announced with Tooth Ripper's crew. And I am really looking forward to this one myself. Let's be hoping that ain't no bloody letdown. Also in the news, them old Primaris Marines, they be jumping on trampolines, as you can see here. What a bloody joke. Also in the news, the Terrain Square Challenge by IDIC Beer. I will be taking part as I told ye before, but I now have decided exactly what I be doing. I be building me a Grot tank factory. Brr. The last bit of news I've got for ye will be about Armour Free. It's a video game apparently. I don't know what that quite is, but it looks bloody good because it features the orcs. And this war boss, Rimmy Downunder, he sure knows his shit.
We've got these fangangly things called maps. You're gonna have to pull them out and have a look at them. Now we've got a very simple job to do today. This stomper here hasn't been working. The mech boys have been lazy, so we gotta get 3 things, 3 prizes from the other lads, and offer them up to the stomper, and offer them to Gork and Mork. The people who bring the best bits back for the stomper get to ride it with me. Place is on fire. That's probably not gonna hit. I'm gonna send a rocket at it. Hang on. All right. I missed. Oh, this is not great, is it?
It'll start for you to fire.
Yeah, hang on, and boom! Oh, someone down there's not having a good day. He won't be in rush hour 3. Oh, that gets me hard. The wheels on the truck go round and round, round and round, round and round. The wheels on the truck go round and round. I crump gits.
What you be two-legged stomper?
Oh, that's not a stomper, you git. That's a can. They're completely different. Oh, sick wheelie.
By the way, how many space marines did you spawn at that castle? You fucking asshole.
15.
No, I killed them all.
Holy
but
shit.
You're an asshole.
Look at the bling on
Oh, it's a rocket tube. Oh, what? It doesn't make you fly, it does. Does it?
I'm sure you guys will agree that looks like an amazing mod. What a fantastic game. I've not been gaming for a long time myself. I've not had a TV for about 10 years. I've not had a console for about the same. I haven't got a PC either. I actually do all of my filming and editing on a Samsung Note 9, if you must know. So there you go. I'm thinking about getting a PC because I'm really enjoying all this YouTubing myself, and when I do, I could be tempted to play a game like this. I mean, that mod looks amazing, and that war boss there is dead funny. I would love to join his boys, definitely. It's very Dawn of War, his voice, isn't it, eh? I like it. But anyway, that's procrastinating and chatting away. Let's get on with Grot tanks, shall we? So, first of all, we'll look at the fluff, which for those that don't know is the lore or the story behind. Grot tanks are miniature tankettes piloted by Gretchen. Most have only one mentionable weapon. That said, much as with killer cans, it does allow the said Gretchen to field a weapon that they wouldn't otherwise manage to lift, let alone shoot. This could be a simple big shooter, a scorcher, a rocket launcher, even a custom mega blaster, and on increasingly rare occasions, the infamous Grotzooka. The tanks also offer the otherwise vulnerable little grots some form of armour, for which most are usually very glad. Some Grot tanks may have a shooter as a secondary weapon, fewer still have one of the before mentioned weapons as a secondary, but these will usually be known as a commander tank. Grot tanks usually act in squadrons, led by such a commander tank, usually piloted by or commanded by a particularly cunning Gretchen who has either clawed his way to the top of the pecking order among his fellow Grots, or he's maybe become a particular favourite gopher, which is a tall steward, of a mech boy. The reason for the existence of Grot tanks at all stems surprisingly from various catalysts. Usually the common denominator is the Gretchen's ambitions, much as with any of their other green-skinned cousins, to show off. They may want to emulate the larger tanks in the warband and probably take great pride in just being able to take part. Look at me, I've got a tank. Much like proud teenagers scudding around with their little 1 litre hatchbacks in car parks at night. But quite how they come to possess these tanks in the first place is often less easy to deduce. In some cases, a mech's favourite mech shop assistant may be rewarded with the turning of a blind eye to their after hours projects, or some warbands are simply so big that the homework projects of the Gretchen in their shanties just go unnoticed. Then there are of course the Grot rebels. Even they perhaps may prove amusing and semi-useful to a cunning warboss or freebooter captain. As with the varying reasons for their existence, their construction can be equally differing, both in design and functionality. I believe it is because of their varied nature that their stats represent an element of randomness. I do not subscribe to the opinions of some though, who would suggest or even go as far as to say that their armour is little better than tissue paper. Those people obviously haven't been chased down by a mob of the little bastards, have they? While it's humorous to consider some Grot tanks may be little more than cardboard boxes held together with duct tape, it's not a very considered conclusion to draw for the whole bunch. If it were true, Grot tanks wouldn't hold a place in the 41st millennium. So, now you've heard what a Grot tank is, let's have a look at a few places that you can buy Grot tanks. If you want the official Grot tanks, the iconic classics, then look no further than Forgeworld. Now Forgeworld do 4 Grot tanks for €87 or £70 sterling. They are fantastic though. And talking of fantastic, you should definitely check out Kromlech and Bits of War. They do a set for €73.99 and they are really highly detailed. I really can't recommend them enough. I actually have 2 sets of those myself. Also then there is Foxbox, who have the tiny tank, and I actually have one of these on its way to me, so I'm going to unbox that on the channel and show you guys that. Probably put it together and paint it too. And to my ever dying shame, I don't know how it passed me by, Chris pointed out to me the other day, said, did you know about Ramshackle Games? I should know because I know the sculptor behind most of the products on there, Curtis Fell. I was looking at them just the other night and I was blown away. They're amazing. There's also Models and Minis who make these tiny, I'd say they're snot tanks really, and he's calling them runt tanks. They're very small, but again they're cool as well, so I have a set of those. Last but not least is Maximini.eu. Now Maximini do 3 fantastic little grot tanks. They do 2 that are called Goblin Tankettes, and 1 which is a scrap junk roller or something like that. It's a fantastic little model. It's actually my favourite of the 3. But yeah, they are really interesting little models, so I've got those 3. There are other ways and other places that you can find grot tanks. You just have to search around online. There are many, I'm sure, and I've probably missed a few. If you guys want to share a few in the comments that I might have missed, please feel free to do so. For me, there's no escaping how appealing the classic Forgeworld grot tanks are. They're a real iconic look. They really do, for me, epitomise what grot tanks really should be and should look like. So I really do admire those, and they, along with the ones made by Kromlech, are my very favourite of all of the grot tanks that are available at the moment. And the reason for that I'm going to explain, but for that we're going to go cameras down. So here I've got a couple of Forgeworld grot tank bodies. Now what's awesome about the Forgeworld grot tank bodies is that you can swap the tracks around on the bodies. So you get 4 different bodies and you get 4 different sets of tracks. So just between tracks and bodies, that's 16 different combinations that you can have. So you would have to buy the set 4 times in order to create all 16. So I think that's fairly bloody awesome. And then if you add in the turrets too, so you know, and don't forget, there's also exhaust stacks and the Gretchen crew as well, so you can tinker around with combinations of those as well. But if we just stick to just the bodies, the wheels or the tracks and the turrets, then you're looking at 64 different combinations that are possible. So then you'd have to purchase 16 sets of these to actually get all 64 combinations, right? But it doesn't stop there. You see, Kromlech, or Bits of War, they also make their grot tank bodies to fit just the same way as the Forgeworld ones. So they've very similar size, dimensions and stuff like this. So they trust me, they fit. In fact, I've got some Kromlech tracks here. Here's a set of Kromlech tracks. They will fit onto this Forgeworld tank. They'll go there, or you can put them further up there. They're just made for it. So if you then take the 4 Kromlech tanks and add them into the mix, that's 8 lots of bodies, 8 lots of tracks, 8 lots of turrets, and that's 512 possible combinations. That's incredible. You'd have to buy 128 sets of 4 to make that. It's crazy. Like, so by having Kromlech make their tanks fit with the Forgeworld ones, they haven't caused a dangerous competition at all. What they've done is created a multiplier. So it encourages, I believe, people to buy more of the Forgeworld product, not less. And I think this is proof of how a third-party company can actually be very beneficial to Games Workshop, because I would have personally bought 1 set, and I know, I weighed it up, I would have bought 1 set of the Kromlech grot tanks. I wouldn't have bought a second set. I would have made a few myself, a few scratch builds for the combinations and a bit of differentiation. But because of the Kromlech ones, because they have these, I have actually decided to buy both sets twice. Now I could go more times than that even, but what I've done is I've magnetised the turrets. So I've chosen the bodies with the tracks the way I best like them, and I can move the turrets around on all of them as much as I like. So that's the way I go with my grot tank. So these are a few that I haven't done anything with yet. Soon we're going to have a look at a few that I have started working on. Okay, so there I've discussed a few options for buying grot tanks, but that isn't the only way that you can acquire them, of course. There are other ways. And one of those ways would be to scratch build a grot tank, which is to make it for yourself. In order to do that, you're going to need plastic card, plastic rod, kitchen scrap plastics, and little bits left over, like, you know, fabric softener lids and lids off of drinks bottles and things like that are all very useful. Straws and stuff like that. But the plastic card and plastic rod is fairly expensive, and you do want to, although it's good to experiment around with it and play at your heart's content and learn new skills, making mistakes with it is costly. So you really do want to know what your plan is before you go cutting and chopping away, unless you've got money to throw away, you know what I mean? Another option would be to convert yourself a grot tank. So what I mean by convert is to take another model, which isn't necessarily a grot tank, and convert it into a grot tank, or take a toy, even something like perhaps this little thing. So this is a little kid's toy. It's even got those little wheels on the bottom that if you pull it back, it runs along the floor, which I think I'll keep that in there if I build a grot tank over this, because they're grot tanks. They're fun after all, you know, they're supposed to be fun. This has got a nice sort of industrial shape, but you can build up around this, and it's got this track detail on the side. Could be useful. Might build over it, might not. I don't know. Like, I just think little things like that worth picking up. I mean, I got like 3 of those for £1 or €1.50. So, you know, why not? Another option is the little toy tanks that you get in those little sets with the little plastic toy soldiers. This little tank, now you might think, oh, that's a nightmare. It's got this horrible mould line all the way down the middle that you'd have to sort out. Why would you? You wouldn't. You pull that apart, right? And I would take off that turret entirely, and take off that turret entirely, and actually build a new centre for that tank. So you're just going to use just the track detail on the side. So, you know, use these things, but only use them for the details or for the shape, and build up from them using plastic card and stuff like that. Otherwise, just putting a bit of, just filing this down and putting a bit of green stuff on it, and maybe cutting out that turret and putting a little grot on the top, that could do you. You know, it's not going to look fantastic. It'll be funny and it will do, but to be honest, you know, a little bit more effort required. So I'm going to actually do a little bit of converting and scratch building on grot tanks, and I'll show you another model that I actually bought from another company, which I'm going to build up as well and convert into a grot tank, which I showcased on my Christmas edition as it goes. But on my first ever episode, which was a brutally honest, or honestly brutal review of Krog's Boys, the Orc kill team, I was laying into Games Workshop a little bit for providing non-orc scenery. But part of that scenery was, they were the galvanic servo haulers, and they came with these tracks. And I discussed in that how these could be very useful for grot tanks. So there's something you should look out for is track sets, because tracks are one of the hardest things to make on a grot tank. Now, there are several ways to make them, and perhaps I'll show you a few of those, but if you can pick up some tracks, you save yourself a lot of trouble. And also the tracks from the Mega Track Scrapjet, which in my review I said, you know, I probably wouldn't use them on that vehicle. So they make perfect grot tank tracks. Just look at them, and they're awesome for it. So maybe I'll build one with those as well as my converted or scratch built one with a few kit bash bits. This would be the kit bashing part. So yeah, we'll have a little look at those. Now, before we get carried away, this is the little tank I'm talking about that I'm going to build this actually and show you guys in one of the upcoming Grot Tanks episodes. So basically it makes a very cartoony version of a French tank from the Second World War. See, there's some images of it. So, and there you go, a nice little cartoony picture of it there. Very cool, I think. I've got the sprue just here. So, mostly just comes as a few big chunks. You've got the body, mostly is all this one bit, and then you've got a few detaily bits on there to add on. The tracks are rubberised, so I'm not going to use those, although they will be useful for something somewhere along the line. I'm not going to throw them away. Never do throw things like that away. They're always useful. As are these decals. I mean, they're not orky, but I'll certainly at some stage find a use for them. So hang on to things like that. In the little intro, when I was talking about Grot tanks, you might have seen this little boy. I made this before I started doing anything much else. I think this was one of the first things I did when I got back into the hobby, just because I had a few little bits. So it is magnetised, and so you can swap over the turret with another turret I made, which is this one. The only thing is, no, they're opposing magnets, and that's the problem, see? So I need to actually get all of my magnets the same way, which... In order to do that, you make a magnet stick, which is something I'm going to show you in an Orkcentirc series. But it was an okay little attempt. You know, I haven't finished it yet. I've still got to add some rivets and stuff like that, and then undercoat and paint it. But he's still cool enough. He can be in my squadron. That turret that I was talking about better fits this body, which was basically my first. That body shape underneath there is the same as one of the Forgeworld ones. It's just me sort of just looking at the picture and sort of having a go at it. I had a stupid idea of using a cork. It's the stupidest thing I ever did. Awful. I'll probably end up cutting that out and starting again on that bit. That's why it hasn't done anything further with this. It's a cool enough looking turret. Also, you know, it's plastered in GW stuff, so it's not something that I could cast and give to anybody else. So I'm going to start working on stuff that's more original without any GW bits on it that I can do that with. But anyway, that's those two. Then we also have this gorgeous little one from Cruiser. I got it at Christmas. You might have seen it in my Christmas special. So it just dropped off of there. Yeah, it's also magnetised, so you can take this turret off. Nice big magnet in there, look. Cool, no messing about with that. Yeah, like it's used the body of a can at the front there. And this again is from the same as the one I use, which is the old Scorcher tracks. A lot of people have used them. You'll see them used a lot in Grot tanks. They're very popular to use. And that's the thing off the back of it as well, the container for the gas or whatever. Let's cut the holes there. I might fill that with something, put something else on there. Nice use of a little grot, and he's giving him a flamer there, just hanging on the side. Very cool. And then, last but not least, just to show off a little bit, these are ones that I do need to obviously get painted, but I'm going to rebase, maybe, I'm not sure. I've got to work out what size my bases are going to be, so I'll probably just put this onto a slightly larger base and build it up, because I'm going to do all of my Grot tanks on bases. But yeah, I really like the way the little fella's popping out the roof on this one. Very cool. Window needs a bit more detailing and stuff like that, and a few rivets and stuff need finishing off. But yeah, sweet little model. Love it. Ignore the woodworm dust that's sitting in the turrets there. That's from my desk. Unfortunately, I've got a woodworm infestation. It's a bloody nightmare. It's a real pain actually when you're modelling. But anyway, this is some rusting that I do. Pre-painting, so this is so that when I then add on some chipping fluid, and then I will put on my usual paint, I can then chip back to some of this rust and get some really nice rust effects. We can then add rust effects over the top as well, because a lot of people add their rust effects afterwards, but I think having a good basis to start from and then work back to and then add to is a much better way of going about it. So we're going to look at that in the next episode of Grot tanks. As some of you who are part of the Dread Waaagh Gaming Facebook group may have seen, I put a request out for people to write to me, Dear Dread, for my new segment, Dear Dread, where I'll be answering or reading a few viewers' letters, comments and messages and all the like, and giving my answers. So mostly try and keep this orky, guys, but the odd funny question I don't mind answering. So let's have a look at this week's Dear Dread. Alan asks, Dear Dread, do you believe that I go, you go gaming systems are inherently flawed? In a word, yes, I do. I think all things in life are flawed. Nothing's perfect, really, is it? But in seriousness, there are lots of different types of gaming systems, so you've just really got to pick one and run with it, really. 40k has always been a I go, you go gaming system. I do like the idea, though, in Kill Team, where they break that down a little bit more and you go unit by unit. So one of mine goes, one of yours goes, one of mine goes, one of yours goes, rather than whole army, whole army. I'd like to see how that dynamic works on a larger scale, whether it actually scales up for a full-scale battle. I wonder if anyone's got a link to any videos where that maybe happens, or especially if it's got any greenskins or orcs, you know, I'd be very happy to see it. So yeah, I'd be interested to see that, or at least give it a try even myself. Both Marcus and Stevo ask, Dear Dread, what first got you into the hobby? That's a really good question. And seeing as it's a cold and blustery March, not even winter, day or evening, and I'm sat by the fire, I might as well go into it. This is one I was going to do at some point anyway, so there you go. I first got into the hobby when I was 10 or 11 years old. I think my dad bought me, or I picked up myself. We did a lot of boot fairs when we was younger. We used to go to a lot of auctions and boot fairs. So I think it's one of them places I picked up a bag, a tough carrier bag, with a big wad of metal, what I thought were just knights in it, you know, and I thought they would be really good to put with my other toy soldiers and my Lego men and all the rest. So I took them home. I got them really cheap, you know, this big bag of heavy metal toys for a couple of pounds, I think. And anyway, I took them into school, or I took a few of them into school anyway, just to show a few of my friends, look what I got, you know. And a few of them told me, oh, that's Warhammer. What's Warhammer? And they pointed me in the direction of a few people that did Warhammer, you know. Turned out a few of my friends actually did Warhammer, they just kept it secret. So I went to their house, I looked at their stuff, and then I went to a Games Workshop. Now my local Games Workshop was in a town called Maidstone. And when I walked in there, or before I even walked in there, through the window, it looked exciting. I got in there and there was cabinets full of painted models that I couldn't believe. They were unreal. They were the best looking toys I'd ever seen. Because I was still a kid that was getting to that age of being less a kid and more a young teenager, but these were the coolest toys I'd ever seen. And then, of course, the typical Games Workshop staff, vultures, jumped on me and pounced on me, but unfortunately for them, I was a really poor kid. And I didn't get a Saturday job until I was 13, and I was earning only 15 quid a week then. So, you know, I was saving for my first lot of models and stuff for a long while, and my pocket money before I got the Saturday job was like a £5 a week. If I was lucky, I think £5 every fortnight maybe. But anyway, I had a friend who was fairly close to me at the time. My parents had divorced when I was a lot younger, and his parents were just going through it, and so I sort of was big brothering him in a little way. And his dad was quite wealthy, but he was always absent anyway, and now he'd split up with a mum. He was sort of sorting the kid out with a whole bunch of whatever he wanted, and the flavour of the month, because I was into it and I was his friend, was Warhammer. So while I was there with my few high elves scratching to buy a few paints to paint the first 4 or 5 of those up, his dad went out and bought him a whole shit ton of lizard men, and he also got the main box game, and in it there was lizard men and Bretonians. So he gave me the Bretonians. Well, I say gave, I had to buy the Bretonians off him. And so I was thinking, oh, I'll do this goodie force then of elves and Bretonians. They're all sort of knights, and I was into that. So yeah, cool. But then in going into the store, I saw Necromunda being played, and I saw people, instead of pushing big units in square blocks, I saw individual models moving around terrain that they're going up and down inside of, and through rooms and stuff like that. And that to me seemed, woo, I like pitch battles and historic, I really do, But Warhammer is a little bit out there and surreal and strange anyway. It's not as historic as perhaps I might like a historic formation based game. So if I'm going to play a Games Workshop based game, then maybe these futuristic ones, which at the time sci-fi wasn't really my remit, maybe I'll lean towards those. So that's what got me into it really. So then Orkcentirc came out. I think Orkcentirc came out in like 96 or 97. I was like 12, 13. And I went to the Games Day as well, and I got that very rare Orkcentirc knob, the metal knob that is, it's worth, I don't know how much it's worth now. I wish I could get hold of one. They're like rare as rock and all shit. You can't even see them on eBay. You never find them. And if you do, they're really expensive. But I had one of those. I had loads of the old Orc Bionics. I had some Tin Boys. Man, I had some really cool old rare stuff. But then I got to the age of like 15 or 16. Got interested in girls. Didn't think I'd be interested in this nerd hobby anymore. Thought I'd grown out of it. So I sold it all for 100 quid. Everything I had, which actually now looking at it was worth a lot. But there you go. So I didn't get back into it till I was in a long-term relationship, and a couple of years down the line, my fiance, she found some painted models that I had left in a box that I didn't want to sell, or I didn't leave in with the stuff that I sold. And she sort of quizzed me about it, and I told her about it, and she sort of said, "Oh, you should do that again." She didn't really know what she's getting herself in for, of course. So yeah, I got back into it, and I really started to get into it. And then I met Cruiser, who was a member of the Waaagh forum that I was a member of, and I was posting in there and chatting away, and we got chatting. It turned out that I was moving to the same town as him for work. So we ended up meeting up and becoming good friends, and he taught me basically how to plastic card, and all the skills I have I basically do owe to him. He taught me most of what I know, and he built the best Orc model ever too, which I now own, which is the Mega Dread. But yeah, then that relationship, as it went on through the years, we moved house, and this one that was very enthusiastic for my hobby became less so. So I started off with a hobby room, then a hobby desk in our spare room, and then it was a case of get it out at the table and put it away. And then I just stopped hobbying, because you know that's no incentive to hobby, is it? So I stopped for years, and I only picked it up again there about a year and a half ago, maybe. Just before 8th came out, I started to get back into it. I started just collecting stuff up really. So this is my 3rd stint, but I ain't never dropping out again, I swear. I'm in it for life now. Now I do of course have more Dear Dread questions from the community, but this is all we've got time for today, so we'll come to them later. But I do urge you guys to send in Dear Dread questions asking me what you want to be answered. They can be fun, or they can be Orc related, hobby related, whatever you like. Just send them in to me, either by the Dread Waaagh Gaming Facebook group, or drop me a message there on Facebook, or send me a message in the comments down below. Just title it Dear Dread, and then I know it's for the Dear Dread segment. And talking about that fantastic community, it's time for the Community Showcase. This week's Community Showcase is of course focused on Grot tanks. So first up we have some Grot tanks by Benjamin Fox, who is of course the producer of the Foxbox Grot tanks, and these are his painted copies of his tanks here. Gorgeous as they are. Can't wait to get my hands on one actually. Next up we have some Grot tanks by Carl Reiki, who has already featured on the Community Showcase, the greedy bugger. These are his Grot tanks, and they're bloody awesome. Some are converted and some are 3D printed. I think he says there's 15 there in total, quite a little pack. And also we have some by Roshan Perera, who is MorknGork, who I've also mentioned on a recent channel. His are some kit bashed and converted from the Cataphren Battle Servitors. He used them as a base and he's fully magnetised them, so they're actually capable of being set up with different weapons, and also they can be taken apart and used as mech guns as well, which is a really nice little touch. He used that as a little project just to learn about magnetising and ended up with some really cool models. If you'd like to see your Orc models featured on the community showcase, then please don't hesitate to get in contact. Coming up next week, we have the Orkcentirc episode 4, and this one's going to be on the tools of the trade, not to give too much away. And also we're going to be looking at the Necromunda Ambots. That's coming up next week, so make sure you're subscribed, make sure you like my videos, and you leave a comment, guys, please. Greetings, grots and snots, and welcome to Dread Waaagh. Oh my god, that bomb's about to go off.
Welcome to the new... Welcome, yo, to the fucking news.
Oh god, I can't keep that voice up. Grot tanks usually act in squadrons led by a commander tank. Well, that's bloody exciting. Well, no, that's so fake. I'm sure you got 3, 1, 2. Fucking chair gets stuck on that fucking thing. That didn't mean to happen, did it? Right, let's get ourselves better positioned. Looking handsome, all those things. Right, I've got some bubble in my throat. Oh, bloody hell. Anyway, blah, blah. Woo. I'm sorted. 1, 2. Okay. What a grot tank is, and just, no, fuck this.
Freebooters, bitch!